What is up, everybody? Welcome to the Seoulweaver Podcast. I'm your host, Will Brooks, and as always, I'm coming to you from right smack dab in the middle of Seoul with a brand new episode, Prepisode of the show. Still in Prepisode mode, haven't quite figured everything out. In fact, this episode itself is kind of awkwardly placed and awkwardly set up because yesterday's episode was such a freaking debacle that I just came on and said, let's go ahead and redo the show in the form that it's supposed to be done in tonight. I mean, I ain't doing nothing. What y'all doing? So today, we're actually gonna go in, do the show as it was in its as it is normally in the normal format. One quick thing though, before I get started, there is gonna be no podcast episode today. Usually the show has three parts: the podcast, the current events show, and then the social media and upcoming events segment. That's not going to happen today because yesterday I had this rambly episode, which was meant to be the podcast. And then things got thrown into haywire with the wife and the son out in the cold and me wanting to go make sure that they weren't out there by themselves. Ended up having a pretty great lunch. If you follow us on, if you're part of the Seoulweaver's Facebook group, you saw me post like a video from dinner. It was pretty bomb, man. There's a lot of times when I get out there and I post things like that, like of events that are going on, like it'd be dinner, it'll be, I don't know, it'll be an event, it'll be something, and it will look a lot better on camera than it actually is. Like one time, I think we were at this restaurant over there near Seokdae, near Seoulweaver Women's University, and it was a Kogi restaurant, and we were like sitting there chowing down and dining. It has all fancy and set up. They cooked all the meat, doused it in like this stuff that's flammable and set it all on fire. It looked cool. And I shared it on social media and everybody was like, I shared it on social media. Then I digged in and started eating menu and started grubbing. And everybody on social media is like, hey, where's that? Where's that? Where is that? Let me know where it's at. And it turns out that it really wasn't all that. By the time they were posting and asking the question, it really wasn't all that good. Like the food wasn't good. I mean, it was showy and everything. You had fire. But in the end, it just wasn't up to par. This place was the opposite, though. So much that before I even posted, I made sure I marked it. It's in the same area, in the same vicinity. We'll get into that, into the fun half of the show, or the second half of the show, third half of the show. Today, I'd want to just go through and knock out some of the current events. I've been gone for a couple of weeks. It's been nice not to really follow the news as closely. So nice that when I started looking up news articles when I got back, I ran into some Trump stuff, North Korean stuff, and I was like, I'm not even going to go into it, man. I'm going to make it a Trump-free episode just until I get my feet wet. Like, Trump just seems like something you shouldn't dive right into. You should it's like a hot jacuzzi, like ease in there real slowly. Then once you get your junk in, you're good to go, right? So I guess that's a shout out to Ray Barone, because I think that's a joke from Everybody Loves Raymond. So we're going to jump into the current events segment, and then we're going to just touch on a few things that are upcoming. I think there's a lot of New Year's parties / concerts that are happening. We got 3 that we want to share with you here, and then we'll talk a little bit about something else that's going on, and then we'll just we'll just kind of hang out once we get done with that. So let's start first with something that's North Korea related. I guess we'll go with like international news with Korea, and we'll start first really quickly with this story about the South Korean panel not finding any proof that Kaesong funds were used to fund North Korean arms. And so to give you a little background on this, Kaesong was like the little industrial, or that industrial section of that industrial province, not so much province, what is it? This freaking industrial complex that was actually there to kind of try to bridge connections with North Korea and South Korea through economic means. So it was like this industrial complex where they had South Korean companies employ North Korean workers, and it was like located in between North Korea and South Korea. So it was kind of like this. It was both significant in the fact that they're trying to keep relations, slowly get a peaceful resolution to the North Korean and South Korean conflict, and like somehow bring the economies along to like level playing field, to where when they actually do whenever reunification happens, however it happens, it isn't so drastic to South Korea because that has a lot of different side effects of what's going on in the South Korean economy. So as soon as I got here the second time, back in 2012, 2013, sometime right before 2015, something happened. They closed Kaesong down. And so there was like a conflict. They were trying to figure out a way to keep Kaesong open, but eventually South Korea ordered the South Korean companies to withdraw everything. They like froze funding. North Korea froze funding. It was a huge fiasco. It was terrible. And in that case, I guess in that incident, it was somehow it came out, and I mean it comes out with everything. Like the news is that, or the story is, North Korea sends people out to work in other countries. They take that money, they send it back to North Korea, and then North Korea uses that money to like fund arms. So there'll be North Koreans working in South Korea that North Korea will just take their money that they made in South Korea and then use that to build weapons to come down here and take over South Korea. And that's what they thought they were doing with Kaesong province or Kaesong industrial complex. So whatever happened, the South Korean panel went through, they found no proof of that. That doesn't mean it didn't happen. But it's interesting that, a South Korean panel actually went through, searched for proof that they were funneling those funds made by North Korean workers at Kaesong to the North Korean government to be used for military arms, and that isn't the case. So that's actually a bit of a good news story. I'd be more happy to see Kaesong reopen or see some kind of motions to get Kaesong province back up and running, or Kaesong industrial complex back up and running. Maybe I don't know really what all Kaesong was being used for. Maybe it wasn't as useful as I thought it was. Maybe it wasn't serving as good a purpose as I thought it was. But it seemed like, at least when Kaesong was open, North Korea and South Korea were talking. Like, this is what people don't understand right now. North Korea and South Korea don't talk. That is a big deal. Yeah. Like right now, the governments don't talk to each other. And that is an interesting, that's something that I haven't seen happening since my arrival here when I first got here in 2001. Like they'd be yelling. They wouldn't be having a nice conversation, but they would be talking. And I mean, if you've seen that with just, sometimes I like to scale down what goes on with countries, just scale it down to two people. And like in an incident where two people are arguing, at least they're talking because they're trying to convince each other of their point and things like that. But if they just stop talking, they become like indifferent to one another, then that's where the real danger comes from. And that's where I worry about what's going on here with North Korea. In fact, I saw an article, I don't have it on here, but I saw an article where they said the U.S. is going to start, they're going to start being a little bit more discreet with what's going on with exercises and things like that here in the Pacific, here in the region, instead of like just going on media and blasting it out. And they had their reasons, like they were saying like that was done for a reason, because they wanted people to realize that there's an exercise going on. And if you see military action, military movements, that doesn't necessarily mean you don't have to worry about them being wartime. That's the exercise. But now they said they're going to be more discreet because they're going to let South Korea communicate to North Korea that these are exercises going on. How? They're not talking. Yeah. Well, yeah. That's. I've made this point on this show plenty of times before. Like, it doesn't, like, you can't make the claim that these exercises are offensive in nature when they've been taking place twice a year, every year for 50 years. If they were offensive in nature and we haven't attacked yet, then you got nothing to worry about. We obviously can't get our crap together. But they're not offensive in nature. They're defensive in nature. And it's easy to say that and be partial when you've seen the exercises. But yeah. Yeah, somebody had a post on Facebook that said exactly that. Like, I don't know if this was key resolve or if it was whichever exercise, but I'm pretty sure we won. But they're defensive in nature. That don't let anybody convince you that there's something else going on. Now, it does get an offensive spot, like you defend and then you go on an attack to resolve the issue. Yeah, but before that, it's all based on North Korea attacking. In any case, I mean, we've been on this one for a minute, but yeah. So again, good news story. Kaesong funds, not maybe this. If it had been proven that Kaesong funds were used to fuel the North Korean military, there'd be no chance of Kaesong reopening. Like, the Conservative Party in South Korea would make sure that any efforts to reopen Kaesong just don't happen. On to the next topic, or on to the next story. I thought this was interesting just because I just came back from being overseas. But South Korea names 59 countries that are quote unquote disease prone. And I think I saw some of the countries, some of them might be disease prone. But they're going to start requesting that inbound travelers from those countries submit a health report. And I don't think that's really that big a deal. I think this is a great thing that South Korea is doing. I mean, it sounds kind of, it may sound a little discriminatory if you're from one of those countries or if you happen to travel to one of those countries. But the thing is, South Korea, even though their medical systems in place are pretty decent, they do not handle infectious diseases very well. And if you doubt what I'm saying, look at what happened with MERS, man. Like it just spread. Like it was just like, wait, there's 3 cases 2 days ago. How are there 300 now? I'm not sure if it went that fast, but it was along those lines. Like it was quick.
Crippled a lot of the hospitals.
Yeah, because they just shut them down. They just said, hey, you can't come here because we got MERS. We got 1 MERS patient, so you can't come here. And the reason is because of that, because I mean, there's a lot of different reasons, but really one of the big reasons is in Korean hospitals, the Korean families they pull a shift basically on when somebody's admitted to the hospital. So if your grandma's in a hospital, you'll be there with her like all night one day, and then you'll tag your cousin in, and your cousin will go be in there with her all night. And if that's not a very good environment for an infectious disease, not to mention they have really bad isolation procedures in Korean hospitals. Infectious diseases aren't something that they had to deal with a lot. So and then the doctors themselves don't have that much training on infectious diseases, again, because they don't encounter them that much. So this is something, and then they put it in place because of diseases like cholera, plague, yellow fever, and avian flu. Which avian flu, man, that's already kind of here. Yeah. Yeah, right. And I noticed they put a lot of there are more African countries on than anything, and the South American countries and things like that. No European countries from what I saw, and very few countries from other parts of Asia. So what are you gonna say? What are you gonna do? If that's what the disease control in South Korea came up with, or CDC version, Korea's version of CDC, or their local CDC came up with, I think they should go with that, because that just starts the ball rolling to actually doing stuff like that.
I think the only thing you worry about is when you name a country, that's very broad.
True.
So now anybody who comes from the Philippines, okay, where?
Right.
Could it be Manila?
Yeah, bowl. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, it kind of gets it. Yeah, it's a little. It seems like it's a fine line once you just start painting with this broad stroke or this broad brush stroke. But I mean, all it is a health assessment. Like all you gotta do is tell how you feel, and then identify yourself, and then put your symptoms on there if you're sick. The thing is, though, if you don't do it, this takes place after January 1st. If you don't do it, it's a $10 million fine. 10 million won fine. $10,000. That's a $10,000 fine if you don't do it. So I don't know. We'll see how that goes, man. I'm curious to see what the first instance of it, up to $10 million won. It really is, and yeah, it's getting closer and closer to $10,000 as we go through. So if you're coming from any of in the link in the description, it has all the countries listed on there. Go ahead and check that out if you're going to travel to any of those countries. I know I mentioned in yesterday's episode, like it's great to travel while you're over here. If you happen to travel to any of those, be sure to do your stuff before you come back, because you might be $9,000 in a hole. Okay, comfort women, man. So this is an interesting. Let me jump to this next shot, because it actually says. So, okay, the comfort women issue. I've mentioned it again on this previously on this show. There's a big issue between Korea and Japan, South Korea and Japan, and North Korea and China and Japan, to be completely honest. All those countries that Japan kind of colonized in the early 19th century to the end of the Civil War, or excuse me, in the World War II, excuse me. They employed women from those countries in brothels for their military, for their soldiers. And Korea refers to these women as comfort women. They say it was against their will. They were taken there, forced to work in brothels and pleasing Japanese soldiers. so on and so forth. I don't even want to go into the details of what was done there. Yeah, it was. There's some topics I really don't want to delve into, and the relationship between Korea and Japan is one of them. But this is interesting. You should know. You should be aware of it. So in 2015, the previous president, President Park Geun-hye, actually her administration made an agreement with Japan, came to an agreement with Japan about the comfort women, and the agreement was Japan would apologize. They'd pay $8.8 million to some fund that's set up for comfort women. And while the whole while that agreement was going on, South Korea's citizens as a whole, I think, maybe not as a whole, but I think the vast majority of South Korean citizens were just against the deal. They were like, hey, this ain't cool. Like, what, like, this isn't enough. Like, there needs to be more. And quite honestly, I mean, I don't know I don't know what the restitution is. I don't know how you clear that out.
You can never quantify something.
Right.
There's never enough money.
I don't think there is. Yeah. It's hard to put a dollar value on something like this, on huge atrocities. Like,
but the Japanese, what they really fail to realize, I believe, if they just came out and said, we're sorry, and we identify that we did a mistake, I think the Koreans would then take that and be happy.
Right.
And you can still get the money. However, that formal declaration of being sorry for that atrocity during that time would help. It would make everybody rest. And the fact that the Japanese will not budge on that.
Yeah.
Really makes it now. I need 10. I need 20 million. I need 12 million. It's going to keep raising that dollar limit. So I think if the Japanese would come across and just say that, it just stings this country still, because now they just go back to that. Here they are again, giving us that same kind of disrespect when they occupied us at the time.
Yeah. Well, in this case, the crazy thing about it is, in this case, they actually have a leg to stand on. From what I understand, before 2015, Japan's position was like, we already apologized for this. Like, how many times do you want us to apologize for it? And I'm with you. I'm like, as long as you apologize and mean it, you look like you mean it, then it might be accepted. Like, if you look sincere in your apology, and I don't know, you can't look into the hearts of people. They're all politicians. None of them mean what they're saying anyway. It goes into it. But here's the deal. I'm gonna make an attempt to explain this. Right? You got two parties, like two individual parties. You got South Korea and you got Japan. You got two parties within those parties. You got the conservative parties and you got the liberal parties. The conservative party in Japan is like, this never happened. They are like, no, these women volunteered to go work. Nobody made them. Nobody forced them. This whole thing is just nonsense. It's being overblown. They're like, we don't even need to apologize for something that didn't take place. The liberal party in Japan is like, okay, it happened. Just let us apologize and move past it. Because, I mean, what do you expect? It's war. That's what happens. You got two parties in South Korea. You got one party that's like, they need to apologize. Wait, okay. You got one party that's like, look, let them apologize. Let's move past it, because those are the conservatives in Korea. They're kind of pro-Japan. And I don't even want to go into, I really don't. They're anti-Korea and pro-Japan. Anti-North Korea and pro-Japan. So they're pretty tough on North Korea and pretty lenient when it comes to Japan. And I mean, if you go back and look at the history of like Lotte and just like these companies that came out of Japanese occupation and the whole industrial boom that came out of the Japanese occupation, the conservatives kind of credit Japan's for moving Korea from an agricultural country to an industrialized country. So they're easy on Japan. Then you got the liberals in South Korea that are like, yo, they need to pay for this. They need to apologize. They need to mean it, and they need to accept it. And anytime we bring it up, they need to just be okay with it. And when you got something like that, and you change, and then so it hasn't been that big of a deal now recently, because it's been a big deal, but it hasn't been at odds. You haven't had this situation until 2015 where the Park administration actually officially accepted Japan's apology and Japan's payment of restitution toward comfort women, and said, okay, after this, it's done. Nobody needs to even bring it up anymore.
And what I think, and maybe this is why Korea thinks that
you want to turn your mic on? I don't think your mic is on. Go ahead, say so.
The reason why Japan, sorry, I think Korea feels this way because I hope they don't think like this is going to be written out of history. Like this will stay, and it's going to be a stain because you just can't wipe history out. So it happened. They it took them a long time to apologize and provide a restitution for this. Now let's just get into the I guess we could say the healing for those people who are still alive and who have been affected. But once again, I don't know how much apologizing can happen.
Right.
I don't know how much money could be given. I know it could be considered strategic in nature, and these things are going to be said. That happened, and it happened in history, and now it's easy for me to say move on. However,
that's a good point. Yeah,
it's easy for me to say move on, but I think what we need to realize, and maybe South Korea needs to realize that this is something that we understand it's not going to go away. It's in history. It's going to be in the books, and it's just something that we just need to keep. You just need to grow through it, and never let it go. I mean, you can still memorialize it, or sorry, not memorialize it, but you can still have
I mean, acknowledge it, right? Like it's still like paid tribute. I mean, it's just like any other thing in history.
Anniversary, so and it can grow and it can show that show other countries that slavery, sex slavery is not a thing, and this is what happens, and it's something to be learned for these kind of things around the world. So, because we still have them. I mean, there's still countries that still do this.
Yeah,
there's a lot of African nations. African countries that still do these kind of things.
I've even read about this happening in like there's like Buddhists in like I swear I can't remember the article, and that's why I wouldn't. Normally, I'm not even gonna bring it up. I've heard about it happening elsewhere.
Yeah, I just think I think what's going on now is it's still being talked about, and I think it's obviously get out and it's historical and get it out there in nature and just let people aware that this did occur. So once again, I don't know how much more you can actually get. Keep striving to get more if you believe it is, but it's never going to be something that is going to comfort everyone.
Right.
But I think Japan and all the troubles and all the things they've caused in history, and we've done it all as well for other countries. I think they're trying to make up for it. So.
Yeah. I mean, I think this brings in a bigger argument, though. Like, and this is kind of taking place in America with the Iran deal. When a previous administration comes through, so here's the point. If you see here, this is a screenshot I took from Facebook, and it's a Japanese guy talking, but he says South Korea should abide by its promises. If it doesn't, then the international community, blase. I can't even read it. It's too far apart. It's blurry. What's it say? If it doesn't, the international. If it does not. It should abide by its promises. If it does not want the.
If it doesn't want to lose credibility in the world.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah. And so, I mean, so that kind of brings up an interesting topic to me. If a previous administration that is the polar opposite of the current administration makes an arrangement or makes an agreement, is it cool for the new administration that is now in charge to go in a different direction? Because the bottom line is President Moon wants to renegotiate this deal. And it's like, I don't know what to say about that.
I think it depends on the deal, obviously, because some deals are not made, first of all, to even be made. But when they are made, they do need reevaluation. So I think for him to say he needs a new deal, I think he should probably say he needs to reevaluate it. However, he needs to bring some good points on that reevaluation. Once again, I hope it's not for more money. But then again, I don't know what he's trying to reevaluate. Yeah. And there might be something that was left out. Maybe he does want more money. Maybe he just wants more formal. Maybe he wants some more PSAs to go out about it. Maybe he wants the world to truly know the suffering. Maybe he wants these kind of things plastered around the world, not just in Korea.
Yeah, because it's plastered around Korea. It is interesting what they do.
I believe I would probably research this. I thought they had one in New York as well.
A comfort woman in New York?
Yeah, I thought they
a comfort woman statue. So if you're unaware of what we're talking about what you're looking at a picture of it right now. If you're watching this live, you're actually watching the video. This is or even if you're not watching it live, but this picture is of a statue of a little girl sitting in a seat, and you'll see these in different places, and they put them like I talked about it a few weeks ago, about comfort women statues on buses. They actually put them in a statue, or put a statue in a seat on a bus, and it's just on a bus, and they're all the buses that are on like along the route that goes by the Japanese embassy. Mm-hmm. Like I mean, if you didn't know this was coming back up at some point in time during President Moon's presidency, then you're crazy. Like it was coming back. Like the foreshadowment was there, and this is just it coming home to roost. I don't know how Japan's gonna react to this, because their stance was already before, like, we've already apologized about this. Now they officially have apologized, and Korea, even though it's a different administration, officially accepted it, and they're gonna be like, they are not gonna budge.
They have one of the Korean heritage in New York.
Oh, okay.
And they have 4 of its kind in the United States. Oh, so it's interesting placement, because you have to have one in New York, you have to have one in California, Michigan. That's strange. But then Georgia. So those the 3, New York, California, and Georgia, are 3 significant Korean, and not to say this in a derogatory way, but hubs.
Right.
In nature, I mean, we all know Korean Air is out of Georgia as far as its international hub. It's a big communities. They're big communities. So and that's maybe what President Moon wants. He probably wants more of these, to be posted around the world, not just maybe in the States. Hey, get one in the UK. Right. Get one over in Russia.
I'm gonna find somebody to like comment on it that can say, like, best case scenario, what would, like, if he could have everything, if Korea could have everything they wanted on this issue, I wonder what it would be. Yeah. Because I'm curious to see if it is they just want more worldwide, or just real acceptance and acknowledgement. I mean, do they want Japan to be like, I know Germany is pretty apologetic, like extremely apologetic about World War II.
Oh yeah.
And so they want Japan to be on that. Yeah. They want Japan to be on that level. I'm curious. I don't know. We'll come back and talk about it, because it's a lot. It's gonna be That's it's gonna be an ongoing thing. There's a lot, and then I mean, I'm sure even once this issue is resolved, there's more that would come up. I'm certain.
Oh yeah. Because now we're gonna dive into other history things that we want to get out there.
Well, now that's done, next fight. So this was an interesting story. This is cut off. I'm sorry. Let me go ahead and get my production skills up. I didn't realize that was going to be cut off there. But this was an interesting story. I'm over here on the wrong thing. That came out. I actually saw this yesterday. I got 2 stories on one slide. And the first story, the reason I have them both there is because the first story is what I found yesterday. And when I was looking for things to talk about, like what's going on in Korean news. And it was about China saying, hey, there's been no sanction breaking oil sales to North Korea. And if you're unaware, after Korea's last missile launch, or is it a missile launch or the actual test? The nuclear?
No, it was a test.
It was the actual test. So after that, the UN decided to levy sanctions against North Korea. And China and Russia actually signed on with these sanctions. It's a big deal because they usually don't sign on with them at all. And China and Russia, part of those sanctions were there will be no more refined oil sales to North Korea. And so something happened. There was a report that while I was gone, I didn't see it, but South Korea said China has been, they actually sold oil to North Korea, but like out in open international waters, like off the Sea of China. Ooh, I almost messed up right there. The Sea of China. They actually met in international waters and exchanged oil with a North Korean ship. And China's obviously comes back and they say, it didn't happen. No, this is all nothing to see here. And then like I didn't get a chance to report on it yesterday because I canceled the show. And then like when I open up my phone today, I see this article saying that South Korea actually seizes the Chinese vessel that was expected of trading oil to North Korean vessels. Mm-hmm. And so this is like, we got you, China. And I was actually pretty impressed to see, not impressed, is impressed the word? I guess impressed is the word. Like I was surprised at the very least to see that South Korea actually seized a Chinese vessel. They were like, nah, you ain't getting it back, man. And so I was like, what did they do? Like, did they go out and get it? Like, that's pretty ballsy.
Yeah.
But no, man, that's not what happened. So I went and read the article. The ship, here's the story from what they're telling, from what the South Korean officials are saying. The ship comes from not Taiwan. It comes from Taiwan. It docks in a Korean port. It picks up oil from like Japanese crude oil or Japanese refined oil from a port in South Korea, moves out and sells, and then like actually trades the oil with a North Korean vessel, then comes back to the South Korea. Like it actually said, hey, we're gonna pick up this oil, we're gonna go to Taiwan and trade the oil there. And then but they actually exchange it with North Korean vessels and 3 other vessels. And then they come back to the Yeosu port? South Korea's Yeosu port. It came right back here, and then of course the South Korean officials detained it. And it's like, well, they didn't go get it, man. They're actually doing it right. In my face. Like in my face. I'm right here. I'm standing right here.
You gonna sell that right in front of me?
Right. It's like, and it's Japanese oil. I mean, I think in situations like this is where the scaling down to people doesn't work as well because they're countries and there's more going on there than what we really see. Is probably corporations involved. I know it mentioned by name the corporation that owns this vessel, and there's different things going on that we probably don't understand just because we don't interact like this in everyday life. But what the hell? We don't like them, man. Don't sell them our stuff. You can't just let Russia like funnel stuff. I don't know. This seems like a sneakier back channel to use to get oil to North Korea than this.
I just find it funny how you catch China and then China says, no, we didn't.
Nah, I didn't
we didn't do that.
Ain't our shit.
It just speaks of
volumes about what the mentality is.
And it just reminds me of Eddie Murphy, and I believe it was, God, I can't remember the one stand-up. And when he gets caught cheating,
Delirious or Raw. Oh, Raw, it wasn't me.
And he tells his wife,
it wasn't me.
And she says, I saw you. And he says,
wasn't me.
It wasn't me. And by the 3rd time he said it wasn't me, she goes, damn,
maybe it wasn't.
Maybe it wasn't.
So you seem so confident.
It just because so why China's saying it wasn't me, I'm like, all right, you said it once. Now I'm sure they're gonna come on and say it again. It wasn't me. So by the 3rd time, do I go, well, damn, maybe it wasn't.
Maybe, yeah. I don't know.
Even though we saw you.
I'm somewhat afraid. Like, so here's my mentality with China, or here's what I think might happen with China. They might just level somebody to take the hit, man.
Oh yeah.
They just say, hey, man, it was this dude. Like, we didn't approve it. We didn't agree with it. They did it behind our back. It's corruption. It's nonsense. This is bull. And then they execute that person. And then they say, hey, we restitution paid. Like,
yeah, I told you, we take it serious.
Yeah. Like, what you gonna say if they kill one of their own cats, man? Like, well, okay, I guess we're good to go. But there's so many people in China, man.
And we ain't gonna let you try them though.
Right, yeah, we'll take care of it.
Yeah.
Now, they did something else happen with China that didn't make it to the forum, but I'll bring that up in the later half of the show because we're actually moving pretty sluggishly through these. I'm curious to see what's gonna happen with this. I'm gonna keep a close eye on this because you're gonna hear this pop up again and again until it's resolved. Because I'm curious to see what the resolution is gonna be.
Well, it's gonna be interesting because I'll tell you right now, the U.S. and trust me, just wait. President Trump will say something.
He already has.
And I'm sure he's going to then pressure the UN to do more to sanction, North Korea. And then also put China involved in it. Not with sanctions, but say, hey, China, you guys need to, we're going to watch you now too. So, I mean, this is weekend news in the States, kind of, New Year's Eve type of news. But however, just wait.
I think this is big. Like, it's gonna come back. We'll see what happens with it. But I mean, the North Korea must really need oil. Obviously, so
they do.
Yeah.
I mean, let's
to be going through all this and just saying like, I mean, what's Xi Jinping saying to Kim Jong Un? He's like, yo, man, we agreed to the sanctions, but we'll get you your oil, boy.
But they only caught one.
Yeah, I mean, how has it happened? Yeah.
So he's just like, oh, you got my reserves.
Yeah,
right,
that might be one they wanted to catch.
I guess we gotta go through. Yeah. You know, maybe we gotta go to Poland now.
Right. I'm not sure. Yeah. So so if you look up news in Korea, there's two stories that are like the biggest stories out there. The one we just talked about with this Chinese vessel and the Bitcoin, the effect of South Korea's introduced regulation on Bitcoin, the effect that it had on Bitcoin. Now, I thought it was a temporary effect. Like it did, like Bitcoin dropped down significantly, but then it jumped right back up, right?
I'm sure it has.
I mean, so here's the deal. I learned a few things that I didn't know before I read this article. One, South Korea has it's 20% of the Bitcoin or the cryptocurrency exchange. 20%. I didn't know it was that high. I knew it was high. I had heard about how Bitcoin was crazy in South Korea, but I didn't know it was that high, 20% of it. And then South Korea has 10% of the world's economy or something like that. Or it's 10th in world economy. So the different what everybody is worried about is the difference of position, that the difference of the significance that it holds in Bitcoin and the significance that it holds in the actual economy, they don't mesh.
They don't. Yeah.
And I guess that was the big issue. But I mean, I've been seeing articles about Bitcoin in South Korea for a long time, and seeing South Korean, all these financial gurus saying that it's a huge bubble and it's gonna pop and it's gonna have these lasting effects.
I think it's interesting that so it's funny you say you hear that Bitcoin has been really market here in Korea, but it took me a couple nights ago, literally sitting on the couch watching the news, and they just started talking about Bitcoin, and they had a young college kid in Korea talking on CNN about how Bitcoin has become the new bang here and how the students are really getting into it.
Right.
And then they had a clip away of Bitcoin centers, like Bitcoin actual cafe type things here in Korea. And I was like, wow, I didn't know it was that big. And just right in Itaewon, for those who stay in this area, there's a center. There's a Bitcoin center.
In Itaewon?
In Itaewon.
What?
I'm like, whoa.
Really been sleeping on this.
Yeah, was I sleeping? And I'm not a cryptocurrency guy.
Right.
However.
Neither am I.
But, the way they were just talking about it, and the kids here, the college kids were all into it, because it's just another way for them to kind of get into the flow of trading stock, quote unquote trade like it's a stock market,
right?
But it's technology and the crypto technology, and it's just something that. And then Korea is a big thing for gaming, and we all know you could buy crypto. You could buy games with those coins. So,
and that's probably what kicked it off in the first place. I mean, it was because the weird thing about Bitcoin and cryptocurrency is that it's only valuable because people have agreed that it's valuable. And I guess since the people that were going to use it the most found that it was valuable in their sectors and things like that, it started to get some other real value. You guys are watching, if you're watching this, you're watching it mess up real quick. I'm sorry. I'm still a little noob at the whole do a show and produce a show at the same time thing. Gotta get my game up. Sorry about that, guys. But it'll come back to normal in a minute. But yeah, I can't believe that it's taken off so crazily in Korea. I mean, I guess it makes sense. I mean, I shouldn't be so surprised by it. But now, so here's the big deal. The big change was you can't trade Bitcoin anonymously now, and that was the big thing about it. I guess that's the big change that took place with the new legislation, is that they said you can go ahead and keep trading Bitcoin, but we need to be able to track it. We need to be able to find out exactly who is holding how much Bitcoin and how much value that is, or I don't know, find a way to tax it, find a way to make it, I don't know, find a way to make it less desirable, to be completely honest. But I don't know how all that works out. I want to get somebody on here to talk about it. Like, I want to get somebody that knows a lot about it to kind of come on, talk about it, explain what's going on with it, because it's blowing my mind.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm trying to keep up with it. I'm just like, I don't know what it means.
I don't know, but they make me want to take a couple $100 to
the side. And just throw it to the side. Just throw. I mean,
yeah.
I got a buddy right now that's doing some kind of trading on Bitcoin where, because the first thing that people do when they see you trading, the first thing they do is they come up with a software to automatically trade for you. So you just put your money in there, and then you just let it trade at certain time after you put the algorithm in, and when certain conditions are met, you go ahead and trade.
Yeah.
Or you buy, or you sell. Yeah. So like, I seen a lot of people messing around with that, but I never did kind of jump out there and figure out what it is. I'm not too quick to put my money out there on something.
I'm just scared because I dabbled in the stock market just a little bit, and it was a
sickening feeling.
Well, it's because I was overseas in Japan, and I was waking up in the middle of the night as if I was moving major money. So
it's like you had like $1,000 in there. You're like, what's happening to my money?
Yeah, like as if I was moving $50,000 or trading like I was some big like stock exchange trader.
Yeah.
But I'm telling you, it consumed me. I was at work. And this was before I really was on my phone like I am now. I mean, this is back in like 2008, 2007, when, but still, it's just, I can only imagine what
you do now. If you can look at it all the time, every time, that would be crazy, man.
So I kind of don't want to touch it. I wouldn't mind if somebody was doing it. Hey, man, I would go, hey, here's a couple $100. Let's go in this together.
Yeah, and like
just
split up.
Let me know what's going on.
Are you hinting at something? Or are you like you want to get on this? We can join up, man. I mean, we can pull our money. I ain't got no problem with that.
Man, we got to get some more knowledge on this.
Yeah, seriously. I'm curious. Like, so if you guys are out there, if anybody watching this wants to jump in and kind of come in and talk about it, if you can talk it intelligently, be reasonable. Like, you got to be able to. Don't come over here and you don't know what you're saying. You're going to embarrass all of us, man. We're just going to agree. We're just going to smile and nod our head, man. We going to all look crazy. So don't do that. Don't be like one of them sign language people that be up there signing nonsense and stuff, gibberish, and because we just ain't going to be able to tell. Yeah. Bitcoin, man. So I think what's interesting to me is that Korea could have that effect on something so big as Bitcoin.
Yeah.
Hold on, I'm gonna throw this message up real quick. Bear with me for a quick minute, guys. I'm sharing this on Facebook. The last one didn't go so well. What? Oh, that's what's going on, man. I think I got the Korean on there. Why is that changed? That's see, it's not a good time. Shouldn't even do it now. Just go ahead and just share it. That's not the link. So That's the great thing about live stuff, man. It's gonna go wrong sometimes. I don't know if that's a great thing. There's a crazy post on my Facebook page or my wall, and there's a post that makes sense. If you're seeing them, you're not watching this, so I don't even know why I'm talking about it here.
Yeah.
So and then the big news locally when I came back was this fire. The South Korean the deadliest fire to take place in South Korea in years. Happened while we were gone on leave. It took place in a building. You know what happened with this, right? Like this.
Yeah, that was the.
It started in a basement of a sauna.
That was the sauna. The gym.
The gym. Yeah.
Yeah.
It started in a basement. Spread. Killed 29 people. 29 people. And injured just as many. I think 30.
29
people.
Firemen, or I said actually injured about 20 some odd people as well.
Wow.
But they had a lot of firemen too that were kind of hurt in that whole. That fire. So it was it
was a big deal. This doesn't, and so like, I mean, if you're American, you may be looking at this and saying, what's the big deal? It's a fire, 29 people died. I get it's a tragedy, but the numbers aren't. It's crazy that you can look at this as an American and almost envy the fact that 29 people died in the fire is a big deal. Like I mean, it's a bigger deal. It's a bigger deal in Korea than what I think it would be in America.
And it's the reason why it's a bigger deal in Korea, and it's magnified. I think a lot of foreigners, when we see things that happen in Korea, you wonder why they magnify so much. Well, that's because these type of things don't happen here.
Right.
So,
that's the thing. That's the deal.
When you see when they have buildings about fires and 29 people die, that is gonna run the news cycle for at least a month.
Right.
I mean, it's not gonna. They might not. First of all, it's at least gonna play for at least a week or two in regards to trying to find out what happened. Then goes into. They're gonna go into the funerals. Then they're gonna just investigate.
Right.
And the investigation is gonna be a national thing.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing that happened with the
Seoulweaver
fire. So once again, that is something that happened, which was a national tragedy, and that's something that we and I'm gonna speak as an American now. That in America, we have national tragedies, but then we seem to just say, well, we're gonna move on to the next one. From Columbine to, you go back that far, and then, you go now a couple of years just removed from Sandy Hook.
Right.
The thing, also the thing in
Vegas.
The thing in Vegas. Yeah, just recently.
Yeah.
We San Bernardino.
Yeah.
So, and it's sad that we can ramble these things on.
Mm-hmm. And we're missing, we just covered probably 20 years. Because Columbine is a long time ago.
That's a long time ago.
But there's incidents just happening in between all of those. So, and with those, it's people doing something. And so I guess in terrorism, we kind of get, we have grown, as Americans, I think we've kind of grown sadly immune to terrorism.
Sanitized. But
because it happens so often.
But like you said, and that's people doing things. This we don't know what happened just yet because it's being investigated. So all you can hope right now is that it wasn't caused man. But from what I'm hearing and just in the reports is that the gentleman who owned the building, wasn't up to code. But then it's also going now. So this is when it gets a level deeper because they're saying it's not. He's saying that he's not the cause of it because the person who sold him the building didn't have it up to code when he bought it. So it's going. I
mean, I'd rather it be that.
Yeah.
When I first heard this, so just to jump in here, when I first heard this, my wife was like, the fire spread from the basement 2 or something like that, from one of the basements to the whole building in 2 minutes. And I was like, how? How does that happen? Even a fire in London. And that wooden tower, it was encased. It was inflamed in 8 minutes or something. It was fast. But it was a wooden building.
Yeah.
And it still wasn't as fast as this.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I mean, when you say fire traveling that far in that short amount of time, I get a visual of a trail of gasoline type or a fuse or something, man. I don't get it just spreading from, but I don't know.
It's just flammable items.
It's just all over the place.
There was a ton of flammable items. You're right. Maybe not the gas,
but
those
something.
Those flammable items were kind of like a gas motion.
Just bringing it all up.
Bring it all up. Yeah.
So and it was sad, man. It was tough to. I mean, it was tough to read. I mean, these are situations in these days and time when somebody finds themselves in a situation where they're going to die. They have their cell phone on them. They're gonna call their loved ones, and I mean it's pretty great that you get to communicate to your loved ones before. But women were calling their husbands. There was husbands reporting that their wife called them and was like, "Babe, help me." Mm-hmm. You're like, "Where are you?" I'm at this place. It's on fire, and they go. I mean, the panic. I can't imagine. Mm-hmm. Can't put myself in that situation. If my wife were to call me and say, "Babe, I'm about to die. You got to get here and help me."
Yeah.
And I'm trying to get there. You can't get anywhere fast in Seoul.
No.
Anytime.
No.
The fireman is there. They're in just as much trouble as the victims halfway.
Yeah.
And that's a rough situation to go through.
Just that story of that, and then you have the one story of the one young lady who was going there for just a job interview.
Oh,
she was going there for an interview. I think she was in college, but she was going there for an interview. And then she just happened to be in the building.
Got caught in the fire?
For an interview. And got caught in the fire and was trapped. She couldn't get out. So
you gotta understand, in Korean sauna, you gotta understand what a sauna is and what gyms are. There's people in there that weren't clothed, and so they had to get dressed to come out of the fire and stuff like that. Some people ran out, they ran through the fire to get out of the front door on the ground level, but other people ran away from the fire and they ran up to the roof, and some of them got rescued. Some of them jumped from balconies to another location, and some of them just got caught in the roof, and that's where they ended. So it was a real tragedy, and it's a sad thing to read about, sad thing to see. The people, they got two people, so there's two people arrested. It was the building owner, as you mentioned earlier, and then the building manager. And they're not arrested for malintent, and that's what the thing I was associating it with. Like when I first saw it, I thought it was malintent. I thought like Korean gangsters had burned up the building, but like they caught them for just failing to abide to fire codes.
Codes. That's what I was hearing.
That's tough, man.
Yeah, and it's like I said, it's gonna get, and this is gonna get political. Yeah, it's going to bring some type of regulation.
And that's the weird thing. So maybe not though. It sounds like the regulations are already in place. If they've already arrested them and tried, and they are holding them, I think the regulations are there. Enforcement of the regulation is what's going to be real. That's probably, how?
Yeah, and that's
the thing about some of these places in Korea. Like, how would you enforce that? Like, what you got to hire somebody to actually go around and inspect these places. And some of these businesses, I got to imagine how many saunas you see. I think I could look out my window and see 3 saunas just from here. Yeah. 3 gyms just from here.
Because when you see one, there's 5 other. It's like a duck row.
Right. Like in the areas.
Yeah, that's how they operate here.
You get like just in the areas. It's just you have a bunch of stuff in that same area. The same thing.
They're all there. So that's the way they operate.
So moving on to one last thing, and then we'll take a break real quick. This was actually the reason this caught my attention. There's another tragedy, 1 person killed and 16 injured in a crane collapse. The crane in a construction site was trying to lift this 5-ton excavator to the top of the building, and the crane fell over, and it happened to land on a bus that was stopped at a red light. And if you've been on a Korean bus here, you gotta know, like, that's a bad situation, because so buses where I come from, we have Omnitrans in San Bernardino. I'm from San Bernardino, and we have Omnitrans, and the buses are it's like one small lane to walk through, and then there's like 2 seats on each side of the bus. Here in Korea, it's different. It's like one huge lane to walk through and stand in, and 1 seat on each side of the bus until you get to the back, and then they like double up seats. And so at any given time on a bus in the middle of the city, you're gonna have a bunch of people standing up in the middle. And like, if you can see where this impacts, actually that's kind of toward the back. Yeah. So it didn't hit in the middle, but I mean, I imagine somebody was standing. It killed a 53-year-old woman I think she was standing in the middle.
And once again, like you stated, the fact, and this is, while one is tragic because you don't want anybody to die. Right. Something like this to fall on a bus in Seoul. And only have 16 people injured. That's remarkable. A miracle in itself. That's a miracle, because those buses are in the ICU. Yeah, and like I said, you would expect. I truly would have expected more to be actually dead. Actually, I'm not gonna lie. I mean, I you don't want to think like that, but if you've ever rode, not to be dark, not to be dark, but if you've ever rode a bus, I pretty much ride them every morning when I go to work, and I don't maybe understand the time when this probably occurred. However, if it's on a Saturday or a Friday afternoon or whatever the case may be, it actually doesn't matter. And so those things are packed. They're packed and all the time. Jam-packed. I mean, to the point where, I mean, like you suggested, you're standing up, where people walking through, and you're holding on for dear life as the bus driver stops and goes, cutting out of traffic. And so it's.
I think some of them guys get points for making people fall down.
Yeah. So it's once again, it's another tragedy. I hope the gentleman who was operating the crane wasn't under any type of influence or anything, and I hope, while it was a mistake,
that's a rough situation. Yeah. I mean, I think it's an accident. So the reason I put it on here is because if you, at any given point, not only at any given point are the buses always crowded, at any given point, if you look out across the city skyline, you'll see hundreds of cranes out there doing construction. And I was like, man, I'm surprised this hadn't happened. I'm surprised I don't see this all the time.
Yeah, we walk down the street and there's
it's just places being built. All just nonstop construction, nonstop reconstruction, they're all developing redevelopment of city areas all the time. So I was like, man, to be honest, I'm surprised I don't see this more often.
Yeah.
But then I went and looked at the article, man, and it actually happens a lot. You just don't hear about it that much. Because in most places it happens like out in, and this is different. Seoul is different than the other, like the surrounding areas, other parts of Gyeonggi-do and others, like the smaller cities. Like something like this is just local news, but in those places, and it doesn't travel that far. But I think there's 20 people. Like this happened 3 times this month. People have been killed by 3 times just this month that people have been killed by falling cranes.
That is a lot.
Yeah, a lot more, way more than I thought. I was like, okay, well, that's
it.
what I was thinking. Now, how often it would happen across the country? There's been 20 people killed by cranes this year in total.
But I guess
that number ain't
is that
high.
a lot when you have so much construction going on?
That's what I was thinking. Like,
know.
is that really a lot? And will you see any changes come out of that? Because that really ain't a terribly high number considering how much it could be.
Exactly.
And I remember when I got here, Lotte World Tower, we're gonna talk about that in a few. It wasn't built yet, and they had 2 huge cranes on the top, the very, very top, finishing up Lotte World Tower. And I was like, man, if them ever fail, man, that would be a frightening thought.
Yeah.
So I mean, I probably should have ended with a good news story. I apologize, guys.
So much tragedy in the last few
tragedy,
stories.
man. But no, we'll go ahead. We're gonna jump to social media events and our social media shares and upcoming events real quickly. So we're gonna get a little bit lighter. My co-host and I are going to crack a beer and chill. We're gonna take a break. We'll be right back. Feel free to join us then. I'll see you in a few. Welcome back. We are about to dive into the lighter half of the show. Just gonna touch on some social media posts that we saw and upcoming events. To be honest, I go back and forth with what social media posts I want to share here, because a lot of social media posts, and you'll see it here today because I just kind of threw in whatever I found. But a lot of social media posts are like articles, and it just turns into an extended current event show, like a current event segment. So I don't want to do that.
Well, it's hard to stay on probably one article when you can go deep into one.
Yeah. Like what? So what? What do you mean by that?
So, you could be talking about, I hate to say these people, but you're going on about the Kardashians and the social, one of the social media posts that may come up, and next thing you know, you said, I'm only gonna spend 5 minutes on that. Now you're 20 minutes in.
Yeah, 20 minutes in talking about it.
You can go off of so many avenues, and now it just takes you away from all other 5 other topics you had. So it's hard to. Social media topics are easy to have that squirrel.
Yeah, yeah, and then, I mean that's why it's this half of the show. That's the point. Like that's really the reason I made it. Like I was like, man, I'm just gonna make it a different segment, and I made it the part of the show where I just crack a beer and just sit down and talk about stuff. Because to be completely honest, I see articles. I mean, we're gonna get into one of them. In fact, let's just jump into it now because you'll see why I wanted to jump on this. Because this is one of the first articles that comes up. And it's an article. You saw this?
I read this. Yeah. I read this.
So it's an article. Oh, because it was shared in Brothers and Sisters in South Korea. So BSSK is a group for it's not just for Black people in South Korea, but I guess that's that's kind of the theme. Like a group's gonna have a theme, and the theme is kind of hey, this is there's Black people in South Korea that have like encounters and situations that you won't have if you're not a person of color here in Korea, and that's what the group is kind of for. But they talk about first of all, you ain't gotta be Black to get in. So I mean, I see everybody in there.
You don't have to.
Yeah,
just click and
well, they let you in. Like they don't care. Like I think that was even a point. That was even a comment like that somebody made. Like, hey, should we keep this limited to Black people? Because right now, anybody can come into the group. Mm-hmm. And so, the vast majority of people is like, nah, man, leave it open. That's what it is. If they got something to say, if they get crazy, they'll get flamed and then they'll quit. They'll leave the group.
You want your minority, but hey, man.
Yeah.
Hey, it don't matter about the majority. Come on in. Mm-hmm. Everybody get some love.
Yeah, so this was shared in that group. And it was drunk foreigners catcalling women on the rise in South Korea. And that's the name of the topic. I don't believe that at all. So let me, before I jump into that, let me go through the story really quickly. Because it could be on the rise, but there's a different explanation. This topic, the article is written like misleadingly anyway, but they talk about these that women that are walking through Itaewon are getting catcalled. And that's just people drunk foreigners yelling stuff at them, telling them they're beautiful, and they go through this one girl's story, Miss Saw, of one of her incidents that she had where she was walking through. She's just walking through Itaewon, trying to get to the other side, trying to get to Nooksopion Station or something like that and go to work, take the subway to work. And this guy, drunk foreigner, comes up to her and says, "You're so beautiful." And then she just nervously smiles at him like the average Korean girl would do if she doesn't encounter foreigners all the time, and then just moves forward. I feel like I need to explain that. I'll come back and kind of clarify that later. But she just smiled at him and kept walking, and he kind of followed her for 30 seconds or so, and she got a little scared. And then eventually, his drunk boys, they're out there partying in Itaewon. They basically got his attention and brought him back, and then she went on about her day. Mm-hmm. But she told somebody about it, made a social media post about it. And I don't know what's this say? It says net. I forgot the name of this Net Shark.
Net Shark, yep.
I don't know if this is like a Korean netizen article or a Korean netizen entity or what, but Korean netizens usually they will blow some stuff up in time.
Well, and I remember seeing this article, I believe, it was either the Korean Times or the Korean Herald. So this article, I don't know where it necessarily started, but I know it was in there.
It's being circulated.
It's been circulated, and I saw it in there as well. And once again, when you hear foreigners. I was very surprised that it said Itaewon,
right?
Of all places.
All places.
I mean, you've been here a long time. I've been here on and off a long time. Mm-hmm. I will tell you right now, Itaewon is not what it was 10 to 15 years ago.
Hey, you don't have 5 years ago.
Yeah, 5 years ago. You don't have. I'm not saying this young lady's story is not what it is, but you don't have foreigners in there like that anymore. And I mean by foreigners, I mean everyone. I'm talking about. And I don't know if she was talking about when she said this is foreigners, but I guess I would say, okay, let's be honest. We're all talking. They're talking about Americans because of the military base that's there. But I will tell you this: that each one has become more like it's the Koreans taking it back. There's literally not that much Americans out in Itaewon that much anymore. There's more Koreans that circulated in Itaewon to the point where you're like, this is now like a regular city within Korea.
Yeah. And so, I mean, you touched on, there's like 3 different points I want to make about this. And you just touched on one of them. That's why, and it's the reason I said catcalls aren't on the rise. They're happening just as often as they happened before. It's just more Koreans in Itaewon to see it happen. Like that's just the way it is. Like if you're gonna have an increase of Korean population, because Koreans, quite honestly, they didn't go to Itaewon that much. They actually just abandoned it as, in the area where there's a lot of foreigners. And if you weren't into like hip hop or rock or foreign culture, you didn't go there. And I mean, people credit Tony Hong, that famous the famous openly gay Korean actor who owns a lot of restaurants.
Actually,
he owns a lot of the stuff.
I've
actually
on that ate at his restaurant in Itaewon. I got a nice picture with him. He's a pretty good guy.
Yeah, man.
He's a pretty
I
good
follow
guy.
him on social media. But and if he made, and when I first saw like the growth that Itaewon has, because Itaewon was really grimy back in the day.
Yeah.
And like and like if you were a Korean in Itaewon, if you were a Korean girl hanging out in Itaewon, this has been happening to you for years. Like this has been happening there since long before my arrival there.
Yeah.
But the thing is, they just knew how to handle it because that's where they hung out, that's where they partied. And if women were encountering guys, by the time they've been there a while, they'd be cussing them out. They'd be reacting just like an American woman would react if somebody was catcalling them. They felt it was really disrespectful. But the reason I say it's also deceptive is because wherever you have drunk ass people, you're gonna have behavior like this. It's unacceptable. I know it's wrong. I get it. I agree. But it ain't limited to foreigners. And
there you go. Exactly what you just said. We're talking about. Here we go. Don't condone it, but you can't put the stigma strictly on foreigners. Now you want to break it down to just being in Itaewon, and I got it. But I can tell you right now, you go to Hongdae on a Friday or Saturday night, where most foreigners will go there too. But for some odd reason, they don't quote unquote do the cat call. But I can tell you right now, those young Korean gentlemen out there, they're calling.
Yeah.
They're more. They're more forceful in what it's not
a lot more aggressive.
It's a lot more aggressive.
Yeah.
So while
just the dudes working, if you just watch the way the men who work, I've seen a lot of. I mean, it's part of drinking culture.
Yeah.
And maybe it's less scary because they know what those guys are saying exactly and things like that. Maybe it's not noteworthy. Yeah. But if you just watch the young Korean cats that work at like the clubs establishment and stuff like that are trying to get women in there, they be like on them, man. They be like, yo, come to our club, yo, free drinks, is this and that, and it's like this. But I guess they have a reason, like they're trying to get them into the club.
They're trying to get them in the club to sell
the club. That's a bad example
for a gentleman. But
I want that one stricken from the record.
Yeah, we're not. You're not trying to say it's right. I just think the article, while the article is talking about an issue, which could be, it's serious to women, because some women don't like it. They don't, and it's disrespectful, and I get it. But when you place a foreigner tag on it,
right,
that's when it becomes like you're singling someone out. You're singling all the foreigners out. And why would you do that when we know this society?
It's men. You want to single men out as a whole?
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, single men out. That's what I'm saying. Just go ahead and put us, because there is going to be, when you take the foreigners away, catcalling is not going away.
No.
So I hate to say it, and it just, that's what it is. And you get, like you said earlier, you get people who drink, they do stupid things.
Yeah. They out of character, myself included. Oh my God.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, I don't know, if I catcall a woman and I say something crazy to her, I should just be checked, like, yo, that's uncool. Don't come up like that. Now me, if you check me, I'll be like, oh. Wow, I'm raised by my mom, man. It'll be like my mom's voice will come into my head and be like, "That was wrong. You need to stop." And I'll be like, "Oh God." But some people will get a little.
And
I seen uni check people, man, and I seen my wife check people, and they're like, what are you stuck up XYZ whatever, and be like, yo, don't get knocked out.
Yeah,
man, she just telling you if she's here here with somebody. That's all she's saying. So them guys need to be reeled in, and that's on your boys to kind of reel you in if you out of control. But
and guys, there's a difference between catcalling a woman, her telling you no, or a woman you're trying to rap to, and she tells you no. Like catcalling, you yelling, that's what it's called. Catcalling, you're calling her, you're yelling out her name in public amongst other people. Hey, use that term. You shouldn't, don't get mad at her when she disrespects you because you're calling her out like that. However, if you're just trying to rap to a young lady and it's just you and her, and she shuts you down, then I can understand if you might get mad if she says some things, you might say something back. That's a different.
Don't even get mad. I don't even understand getting mad. Maybe it's just that's a personality thing. I never get mad. If I got shot down, man, anger was never the place my go-to response.
But when you really think you putting in that work, when you think you got your best conversation,
yo, man, that was laid right, man. I followed all the check blocks.
That was my best rap.
Yeah,
I ain't got no more.
You just think I'm ugly. You don't like the way I look. So yeah, I mean, this is pretty bad. I would be remiss if I didn't mention there was actually a comment on this post where a foreign girl was talking about her experience with older Korean men when they get drunk and what she goes through. So foreign women here in Korea, they do go through a bit because you catch their attention, you stick out. Yep. And so, I mean, foreign men go through it too, but we kind of feel like we got to go through it. Walk through a drinking district near like a work district. So Koreans do hueshik when they get off work. Like right now, it's Friday night. There's a group of people that are out there partying with their boss, and their boss is getting out of control, and they ain't gonna say nothing to them.
Go downtown right now by all the Embassy Road.
Or go to Kongduk Station.
Right
now.
Station.
It's right down the street. And you will encounter a lot of people out there drinking. And if you're a foreigner walking by, if especially around, we get really, really late, and probably shouldn't be out anyway, but around 3 o'clock in the morning, if you're walking somewhere, and you're a foreigner, and you're going to stick out to people, man. And you're going to catch their attention, and they're going to interact with you. Now, if you're a guy, they're going to talk to you. They're going to say something. Hey, man, do you like...
Hey, brother.
Yeah.
Hey, bro.
Hey, brother. Yeah.
Hey, bro.
Man, when Obama first became president, bro. I mean, Obama first became president, man, I had so many people stop me on the street and ask me if I like Obama. And I was like, I gotta say, yeah, right. Like, I don't think I have a choice.
Yeah. I wonder what happened if you said no.
I never want. I would think, to be complete, a drunk Korean man, I would feel like if I told him I didn't like Obama, he'd slap me. Hey, stick to your roots, man. Yeah. You gotta stick together. That's what your problem is. Like I never even thought to even try to test it. Yeah. But I got my best friend, man. If somebody asked me like, Bob, you almost got offended, man. I didn't vote for Obama. Like, bruh, you don't vote. You never vote for anybody. Why you just saying you didn't vote for Obama? He just don't like that stigma, man. He don't like it to be like, yo, you black, you like Obama. He didn't like that.
Just say I'm independent.
Yeah, you don't vote. That's what you're doing.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, if back to the point, I don't know how I got that far off, but back to the point, if you're a foreigner walking through a drinking district, you're gonna have these incidents too, and you're gonna report them, and they're not gonna be taken seriously.
Yeah. No,
and you're gonna have Korean men dancing with you, grabbing on you, grabbing your booty if you're black, because I hear about that all the time.
Yeah, because they think you want it.
Yeah, they want to see, like, that's not real, is it? Like, so you see all kind of crazy stuff going on, man, and it's just, I mean, it's part of drinking culture. Yeah. Maybe I might be wrong for...
No, it sounds wrong, and I know what you're saying.
Yeah, I'm not trying to justify it.
I'm not trying to justify it.
But it's part of...
It's a part of drinking culture, and it's not right. And like I said, that young lady who that happened to, for her one story, I'm sure there's 4 more out there.
Yeah, 4? I'm sure there's hundreds.
But like I said, I think when we get back to the root of this whole article, this is why headlines always seem to be misleading. Well, they sometimes are misleading. But foreigner, if they could scratch that word out of just saying, how about they say drunk men catcalling women on the rise in South Korea.
Yeah.
And even then, you could still have certain areas. You could say Itaewon.
Yep.
Because at that point now, you're talking about the men in Itaewon.
Yeah.
I don't, granted, a jaded person might say, well, they're talking about foreigners. Yeah, they might
Whatever.
be. But you know what? They didn't put that in the article.
Yeah.
The article stated drunk men.
And a good thing about this, so another good thing to point out about this article is that it makes it seem like there's something being done to stop drunk men from catcalling and single them out. Yeah. There's nothing like that in there. Yeah. To me, that seems, it's almost like irresponsible writing, but I don't know, man. Go back and read some of my old stuff. It's probably irresponsible as well. Yeah. So I'm not going to knock them too hard. Just all that being said, if you're a foreign male here in Korea, keep in mind that you're an ambassador, and anything you do will be kind of like generalized, magnified and generalized across everybody. And I wish I had known that. I wish somebody had made that more clear to me in my younger days, because there's probably somebody with a story about me out there. I don't even want to get into let's go to the next thing. Get into the numbers, man. Please. I might. So okay. So I think these 3 articles that are coming are related. The catcalling thing is also related to something like this. And I saw this last week and didn't get a chance to touch on it. There was a Visit Seoul. It was just a marketing ploy or marketing campaign, and this was a picture used on a marketing campaign. And you can see that there's and then people wrote an article. They got a lot of backlash. The unintended undertones of sex tourism are associated with this campaign. And I wish people could see you right now, because that's the reaction I had. I looked at it, I was like, man, this is getting too. I'm a liberal guy, I would say. I'm left. I'm out there and left. And I was like, man, sometimes social justice warriors that's too much. We just overdo it, man.
That's too much. It's a young lady. I'm not even seeing the lady. I'm seeing the city.
I'm looking at the city through her. And if you guys are looking at it, if you guys are just listening to the audio version of this, get out of my house, because it doesn't exist. I don't make an audio version of this. You're going through my computers and my files. But if you're looking at this, glance at it. It's a young woman in traditional Korean garb, and then you can see the city of Seoul behind her. The thing is, the article talked about her left hand. It's holding the ribbon that holds her garment together. Can you see that? That's what it is.
They're reaching.
That's what it. And so it looks like she's got this seductive look, and she's undressing, and they're saying this contributes to sex tourism. People coming over here to participate in, be it sex trade or whatnot. Prostitution is more rampant in Korea. It's far less than what it was just 10 years ago.
Yeah, 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you look at Yongsan Station right now,
oh my God,
that was a red light district.
Yes.
That's where you went through to handle business, and now it's a business district.
Yes, it's a metropolis now. People, you have towers there now. People live there.
It's shocking the difference between it was. But back then, and I would imagine anything pre-88 was even more sex tourism was a bigger deal back then.
Yeah.
But I don't think it really isn't. I don't know very many people. I've met some grimy cats, man. I don't know very many people that came over here for the sex tourism. If they were grimy, they were gonna go somewhere else where sex tourism is more rampant. Are we getting messages? I haven't even checked this thing.
No. Yeah, but I think once again, social justice warriors to go that deep into being a young lady who's on here in traditional Korean garb. And they have the city imprinted. She's almost, it's like a watermark.
I thought this was good.
It's like a watermark photo, pretty much. It's she has. You
can't even really see her.
You can't even see her.
Yeah, you can see her.
Well, yeah. After you tell me, when the once again, here we go with the article names. Like I said, now
until you read that, you wouldn't visit. I would never even thought anything of it.
Visit Seoul, unintended for undertones of sexual tourism. Well, first of all, I'm still looking where are the undertones of sexual? So I probably would have to read the article, probably at least the first paragraph to be oh, I have to look there at the top there, and that's what they're talking about.
I didn't even see her hand at first.
Yeah. And even then, with her hand still being there, I still don't. get the undertone.
I get it now.
But once again, you shouldn't have to. They're forcing you to get it.
Yeah,
That's my point.
It would have never occurred to me if I hadn't read the article.
Even if you still would have saw her hand there, you still wouldn't have thought a sexual undertone.
Yeah, I don't think so.
No,
I mean the people who did think of sexual undertones from this pic, I think they'll get it from even more innocent pictures. Like, I don't think you ain't nothing you gonna do to change them dudes.
No. Yeah, that's true.
Or girls
or
women. Anyway, that's what they get that from everything. I've met them. They get that from anything.
They see.
I've met people who are pretty almost impressive in their way to add sexual innuendo to anything said. Like, whoa, we were talking about bread.
Yeah.
Like, I don't see how you got like a sexual innuendo out of that. That's like they're all like the Todd from Scrubs. And they don't even know to help them guys, man. That's just what they are. You got to go back in time. So I mean, but to me, it relates to the catcalling article because maybe there is more. Maybe I'm just not seeing it because.
No, I'm gonna go on a limb and say no.
You don't think so?
No, I'm gonna go on a limb. I'm gonna go back to another thing. This is misleading article number 2. This is misleading headline number 2.
I think it.
So this might be the theme of these 3 articles. Misleading headline.
Nah, because the next one.
Okay.
The next one is off the rails.
Okay, well then.
So let's jump into the next one.
2 out of 3 still.
Yeah, 2 out of 3. Yeah. So okay.
Okay. Yeah.
So here's the deal. The last 2 articles were written from this. Even if they were genuine, I don't think they were. If they were genuine, they were written from this conservative standpoint that I think doesn't really exist as much as people want to say it does anymore. And this article kind of proves that. Like, Seoul plans to distribute condoms to students to promote safe sex. Man, that is as least conservative. That is like that is a conservative mentality that's just being blown away. This is the mayor of Seoul that's doing this. I didn't read this article.
No, I will tell you this. While this article, because you see 2 young ladies and they're talking about Seoul plans to distribute condoms to students to promote safe sex, I immediately think that that's a good thing. But then I also think this is something that Korea is going through right now, where
I agree.
It gets deeper. Like, the government wants young men and women to have kids.
That's true.
And they're not having kids because it's strapped work economy. So, and this is happening in another Asian country as well, Japan. I mean, they're both having the same
population.
issue.
The population growth is very, very low.
So they some I won't say economists, but the personnel, probably in the Census Bureau that they have here in Korea, are probably saying in the next 50 to some odd years, we're going to decrease in population due to the fact that kids in this generation are not having children.
Right.
And while they want, they're promoting safe sex, you have to remember they're actually promoting sex still. And it's being promoted to be done safely. It could hurt when you're talking about students, but they could be talking about college students. Don't think about high school students.
Right.
Think about this is more or less for college students, and it's so I think when I see this, and I know from the past 2 articles, those were just so misleading, but this one really speaks to me more that this is a good news story because what they're trying to promote is, like I said, safe sex.
Safe sex, yeah.
But I think they're trying to do it more on a broader scale, where they're trying to tell the young kids, or not young kids, sorry, probably the college students, that it's okay to have sex. And, do it safely. And as you grow, as you grow older, you will see that this is something that you can do, and maybe you can start a family. Maybe I'm taking it deeper than it is, but this is the way I see it when I look at this article. It's a more deeper meaning for, I think, the country.
Has safe sex really been a theme that's been touted here in Korea?
No.
Is that me? Oh, ran a little late. I'm sorry, Professor Park. That's my English. Oh man, I'm sorry, dude. I haven't been able to talk to him for a while. he's a good source. We should all appreciate him because he brings a lot of these topics to my attention. So he always shares articles. The thing is, I always get articles from the Korea Times, and Korea Times has their, I mean, any one news source has their slant, and so but there's not that many options in English, to be completely honest.
No,
but I'm finding more.
Hero Chosen.
Yeah. So I'm trying to find more, but yeah.
But yeah, safe sex hasn't been a push. Well, remember, they don't even really want to talk about. They didn't really want to talk about sex because they felt it led to heinous things in nature.
Getting back to
the comfort, getting back to the slave. So it's not something and like it's just not something that actually was talked about and promoted.
Yeah.
But I think, like I said, now that's why the deep rootedness of the government noticing that we are not, people are not producing kids. Mm-hmm. We need to start talking about this.
Yeah.
So it's.
I wonder how much it has to do with the spread of diseases too. Like I think I've seen articles talk a little bit about the spread of sexually transmitted diseases in Korea, and something that they didn't worry about 10 years ago, and now it's like starting to jump up. So
the more foreigners you let into the country, I mean, that's just, let's be honest, folks. It's the most foreigners that you let into the country, because
the foreign population is just growing, man.
Yeah,
it's booming.
It's booming, and I think they really promote safe sex is because most Koreans don't have safe sex based on they're not worried about catching a disease, and I don't think they worry about the other factor of a kid. They're not worried about that. They're not worried about catching a disease.
Right.
They're not.
I would co-sign on that.
They're not worried about that.
That's a thing.
That's not even a thought process because in this country they don't have those issues. That's not something that's rampant. So I can understand it now though, being, hey, we need to practice safe. Hey, we need to get this out there. So because when you just not that you're just doing it in this country.
In Seoul.
Yeah,
like particularly in Seoul,
international community. It's an international metropolis.
Yeah,
it's an international metropolis.
Slowly becoming more and more the case.
Yeah, so I think it's good promotion.
Go for it. Yeah,
it's good promotion.
Do it, man.
It's good promotion.
Put them sperm in that plastic thing or whatever was going on right there.
Throw it away.
I'm not sure what I'm seeing right there, but yeah. On to the next topic, and this is one of the articles that I was talking about these were articles that I was talking about. Like, I don't understand why. Like, I'm having a trouble like differentiating between what should go into the current events segment and what should go into the social media segment. But this is so the one on the right. It's an announcement that Korea is like creating a nuclear watch tower or watch group, a Korean force to create a watch group that actually watches North Korea's nuclear actions. To that I say, what now?
Yeah.
That's why I put that there. That's why I put that there. Where was a year ago?
Yeah, we just started this a couple years ago.
Well, come on, man. That should have been there ages ago, man. I don't understand how that's now.
I mean,
that's like the only reason I put that there, because I wanted to make that face and say now. And it's a question.
Yeah,
no, this wasn't 100%, man. You made a decapitation unit, a unit to go in and kill Kim Jong-un and other North Korean leadership before you made a nuclear, a force that watches nuclear activity in North Korea.
Well, and to their credit, maybe they felt that they could contract that kind of mechanism, because who's you have, maybe there's somebody on a global scale, the UN. And those who track nuclear, who has nuclear weapons, who's producing nuclear products, and that's supposed to. I mean, there's supposed to be a global commission, so they probably didn't think they needed one. I don't know how that's possible.
Yeah, I do. You would have. I put it there because you would have thought that would have happened a long time ago.
Trust me.
At least
in the U.S., we ain't gonna rely on nobody else.
Nope.
We're gonna create our own thing.
Yeah,
and let it run.
Maybe that's what it is.
And
sometimes you forget, like, there's like Korea is slowly becoming so much like the U.S. in a lot of
Western
ways.
nation, they're becoming independent. They're trying to get from out under us. I mean, we're seeing a lot of that. You're going to see a lot of that here in the next 10 years with the transfer of the military, things of that. That's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
And hey,
And I would go out there. I would say I think South Korea's military I think they can handle North Korea. The problem is, I don't think if North Korea ever came down here, they'd be the only ones come down here. They'd have a lot of support.
I was gonna say,
that's
you
the
better
thing.
believe China,
that's why we here.
Russia.
Yeah, we're not here because y'all can't handle. That's the thing. And I saw some article or something like that I said like South Korea is a country. South Korea and North Korea are countries that are like trapped in between. You know, this fight between the superpowers.
The superpowers. Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, man. I mean, it's. I remember the dude that just called me is a college professor. He tells me a lot about history, and he was just talking about how, like, we were just talking about how Mao, like the source of communism in China, was all but defeated, and somehow came back and defeated the Taiwanese his opponent, like just because of the corruption that is bred by capitalism and democracy. And it was just like, dang, man, that's
just wait them out.
Crazy, yeah.
Just wait them out.
Just wait them out, man.
They're
gonna do something.
Eventually they're gonna
do something.
eventually they're gonna eat themselves.
Yeah.
And then I'll be standing there with the capitalist society, and I'll just go and
that's crazy.
Take that too. So,
but yeah, and then the other article is actually one that we talked about already, where China was like, nah,
I think
man,
just picking one. And just talking about that one, you pick the one whatever you want to talk about for their current, for your topic, and then just just keep that out. You already talked about it, and just
go on through it.
And just go on through.
So okay, so here we go. Upcoming events, and we're gonna end with this right here. So there's a lot going on, especially with New Year's coming up. These are 3 New Year's parties / concerts that are taking place, and I am going. You guys, I'm going to struggle through this. Here's the deal. It's in the description. So if you want to go to any of these parties, go to the description and look it up in the description and go to the link. It's got like the things on there. I may say some things wrong here because real talk, New Year's is no longer party time for me because that's like family time for me. I want to spend New Year's Eve with my family. So I don't really care, but I wanted to like point this out to some of you guys that might be young, single, or young and just looking for something to do. Maybe not even single.
Maybe you don't have no kids.
Maybe you had kids and you spent your last 5 years at home and you want to spend this year out doing something. No judgment here. So here's the things that are going on.
No judgment here.
Seriously. But there's three different parties going on. The one you see on the left is, of course, the 2018 countdown. They're all called countdowns, but 2018 countdown taking place 2018 in Times Square in Yeouido. It starts at 11 o'clock. It looks like it's going to be a massive concert. So be sure to like get there. They're gonna have like K-pop groups and stuff like that there. Head to the link to see who all will be there. If you happen to be here in Korea, you want to be looking for something to do, you ain't got nothing planned yet. Shame on you. But if you ain't got nothing planned, that's an option. Those tickets are being sold on Interpark, and the link in the description is going to that Interpark page where they sell those pictures. You may have to get somebody to help you out. If you want somebody, I was gonna say if you want somebody to come and translate and help you out, like hit us up and I'll get you to do it. But she really don't do that. Get your Korean friend to help you out.
Papa Go.
Yeah.
We don't promote Papa Go, but it works.
It works. What is Papa Go?
That's it's an app. It's an app in Korea where you can put Korean language into it, and it's translated for you.
Does it work? It works well.
It's awesome.
Oh, I gotta share that, man.
Yeah, it's awesome.
I had a default reaction when you said it, like it works, and I was just like, wait, we need to go back. I don't know what that is.
To take it off topic, but no, I utilized it literally. Sidebar here for this, like I said, I'm not promoting it. However, I used it for speaking to my brother-in-law, where I can actually. He's speaking it, and he would talk.
Oh, that's what it is. I've seen that happen.
Yeah, and it would translate in English, and I would speak in that, and it would translate to him in Korean.
I didn't know that was the name of the app.
Yeah, we actually had a conversation one night, drinking some beers.
That's crazy.
And
promote it, man. That's helpful. So cool. I don't care. Like it doesn't. Not a sponsor. I guess I have to say that.
Yeah, I would say
Not a sponsor, but Papa Go. That I've seen people like take their phone. Speak into their phone, and then it says whatever you're saying in Korean. It's actually been, and I've heard it's pretty accurate.
Yeah, and I saw it. I saw it on the commercial, and I was like, "Oh, that looks cool. Let me download it.
We should,
and it works.
If you're down, we could do a video where we just get just go see how well it works.
Yeah, it works, man.
Put ourselves in further and further uncomfortable situations and see how we
person here to kind of go back and forth.
We can go kidnap somebody and be like, if we can explain, like, hey, we're only doing this for a project to see if this app works and then see if we can get out of it.
Get Sean.
Maybe not. Yeah. So off topic, but back on D3. This is the final countdown. Man, these are parties, man. You know, I'm sorry, I ain't gonna go through it, man. These are there's three parties taking place. One's at Times Square. one's at Chamshil Sports Stadium, that big stadium complex in Chamshil. That's gonna be huge. There's a huge concert taking place there. That is the one in the middle, the final countdown. And then the one on the far right is New Year 2018 taking place at Walker Hill. If any of those interest you, the links are in the description. They're properly labeled. Check them out and head over to them and let us know how. I mean, if you have fun, man, like you got videos, you being crazy out there, let us know. I want to see it. I want to live vicariously through you. So share it with us on social media at Seoulweaver on Twitter, at Seoulweaver on Facebook, and at Seoulweaver on Instagram. And then this last thing we want to talk about is Korea's tallest building, the Lotte World Tower, is 555 meters high. And man, that's high.
Yeah.
And that Spider Girl climbed that. She climbed it from the ground. But
did she went all the way up?
That's what I mean in my head. If she didn't, don't tell me.
No,
in my head, that's what she did.
I thought something happened. I don't know. I could be wrong.
Did you read that she fell or something? Or
it might not have been here, but I thought it was somewhere else. Something happened.
She could have had something else happen to her elsewhere. But when she climbed Lotte Tower, they had a picture of her at the top, like climbing over. Yeah. I climbed a 20-foot tall man-made. Lotte World is man. Lotte World Tower is man-made, but I climbed the rock climbing joint, man. And I was at a Sports Monster this weekend. I climbed that, and I was just like, I wasn't tired when I got done, but I was like, I couldn't imagine like going too much higher, you know. But yeah. So they're gonna go ahead and do this fireworks show. It isn't the first instance of this fireworks show, and the real reason I'm sharing this. Well, the real reason I'm sharing this is because it'll be cool. It'll be nice because they put the way they do their fireworks. It all comes off the building and it's all centered around the building, and it actually is pretty cool. And you can catch a live. They're actually gonna do a live feed of it. That link is not in the description. I'll go ahead and update that. But there is a link to them doing this 55. They're doing a 555-minute or 555-second. Fireworks show.
Yeah, a minute would be
that would be a long fireworks show.
Yeah.
But they're doing a 555-second fireworks show because it's 555 meters tall, and you can see an example of this because they did this when they opened the World Tower back in October. And Feed the Corey, formerly Corey and Marie, he actually has a video of it where he just kind of like recorded the whole show.
Oh, okay.
You can head to the link in the description and see that on his video. I'm no longer showing videos on I would normally show it to you here. But one of my videos got struck down for copyright infringement.
Yeah.
Here's the deal, man.
Don't need that.
Yeah. I don't do the videos to make money. But I'll be damned if somebody else they didn't just take it down and say, hey, you can't have this up. They let the other person who proved that I had some of their content in there. I had 30 seconds of their content. It's it's Moon walking in on somebody while they're doing laundry. Mm-hmm. I had 30 seconds of it. Yeah. And they let them monetize my whole video. I do an hour and a half long show. How you gonna tell me they monetize the whole thing? Now nobody watches it. So the joke's on them.
Yeah, but God forbid they come back years later.
What if people start paying attention to it? Man. Yeah, and then they start watching it. Then they're gonna. I don't mind me not getting the money because that's not what my platform is for. And I'll make other products for you guys and slang them to you guys that really help you when I want to make money off this. But I was just like, man, for real. Digital products, they coming, man. But I'll be damned if somebody else make money off it. That's a slap in the face, especially when they didn't do.
They didn't do absolutely nothing. I saw that on TV.
That's crazy.
He walked into a laundromat.
It made me realize why people really don't why they blur out. If you watch Korean TV, they blur out everything, and they be like, this is a TV show.
Or
That's
they
a
put-
restaurant that wants people to come to find out who they are,
Yeah.
and they've seen that food. Like, why would they want them to blur out their name?
Or they put the sticker on their clothes
Right.
and things of that nature.
It's just like, why is that such a big deal?
Yeah.
It's a different environment here when it comes to that.
Yeah, you want to make that money.
They're like, hey, no, this is ours. So,
yeah.
and then that's all we got, guys. So we're gonna go ahead and drop it off there. I'm gonna sign off. Did you have anything to say in closing before we head out?
No, man.
Yeah.
Thank you for letting me come in.
Thanks for joining in, Jen.
Yeah,
and I
yeah.
didn't even get a chance to really introduce you, but I think
Yeah.
you'll be on
The
future shows.
mysterious
We'll come.
figure.
Yeah, that other voice that's in the show that brought in a lot of value to the show. Definitely brought other opinions and other information that I hadn't had on my own. So that's just exactly what we want to get on the show. I'm gonna head on out. We will be back next week. Revamping things. Will be a new year at that time. I hope you guys enjoy your new year. And we'll be back next week, Thursday, with an updated version of the show. Probably going to have some changes. The podcast episode is going to be talking about changes that I'm considering doing with the show, because it is pretty lengthy. And I know people can't like sit down and chime in for an hour and a half just yet. So we may be breaking the show down in different parts. I'll go ahead and run that by myself and the wife,
Awesome.
And think
Run through your producer.
Yeah, I run through my producer. I run through my agent, and
Yeah.
we'll see what he thinks of that and what she thinks of that, and then what we'll get from that. So I'll let you guys know what's going on with that next week. Also be talking about more current events, of course, and more social media shares. If you see anything that you want us to talk about or you want us to kind of touch on and get our opinion on, be sure to share it with us at Twitter, at Instagram, at Facebook, at Seoulweaver. All those other times that I said at, I meant on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook, at Seoulweaver at everything. And those links, of course, will be in the description. Thanks so much for your time. I will be back next week. We'll see you then. Until then, be safe. Have a safe new year. We'll see you guys next year. Holla at your boy. That's a wrong transition.